Hi, I'm so sorry that I cannot make it into class today. Unfortunately, I'm traveling with my tennis team and am not able to make it in. On behalf of my entire group as well as myself, we really appreciate your guys' patience with us today as we go through our entire presentation and our amazing activities that we have planned with you. Again, we really just appreciate your participation and patience and just kind of bearing with us while my group puts on the rest of the presentation while I cannot be here today. So today we will be talking about realistic fiction, which coincides with chapter 10 of our textbook. So a little bit about the origins of realistic fiction. It began as a didactic literature in the 1700s. So this means that instead of entertaining children, it was meant to mainly just teach morality and proper behavior. This also means that early characters were described as wooden and lifeless and focused mainly on being good rather than realistic. So again, this kind of goes back to the didactic literature part, where instead of having personality or instead of being entertaining, they just really needed to get the point across with morality and proper behavior and just teaching these life lessons to children. So they were kind of described as like a wooden personality. A major shift, however, started in 1719 with Robinson Crusoe, which introduced adventure and survival elements that appealed to readers, especially children. In 1744 also, John Newbery helped establish children's literature as its own category by publishing books meant to entertain as well as educate. So early realistic fiction also included adventure stories, such as survival and exploration that we saw in Robinson Crusoe, family stories like Little Women that came out in 1868, and animal stories that often gave animals human emotions. We also see this a lot today with different books such as Corduroy, which kind of personify animals and give them human emotions and human characters. Overall, the origins of realistic fiction was rooted in teaching lessons. However, over time, it slowly began incorporating entertainment and relatable experiences to kind of create a more entertaining and fun um, literature for our children. So, also a little bit about the evolution of realistic fiction. Over time, it shifted from idealized, happy stories to a bit more complex and honest portrayals of life. So, in the early 1900s to 1950s, it kind of just focused on happy families and lighthearted life. Stories also avoided major controversy. However, in the 1960s, 1970s, this is kind of where we see a big major turning point. This was the rise of New Realism, which started with Harriet the Spy in 1964. Books also began including taboo or difficult topics such as death, divorce, bullying, gender issues, and much more. Adults were also portrayed more realistically, with flaws and strengths that we wouldn't see in earlier books. There was also increasing diversity with more stories about children of color in different cultures. And there was also a large growth in authors of color that gained recognition. And then contemporary realistic fiction takes place in the present or recent past. It reflects current societal issues like poverty or homelessness, and it balances joyful moments with harsh realities. So we can see that kind of over time we have shifted from idealized, happy, no issue life to a bit more realistic, everyday things that we see in our society to kind of show children that not everything is going to be happy and perfect and idealized, and that there are going to be flaws, and we need to learn how to kind of work with that. So, a little bit about the relevance of realistic fiction. Realistic fiction is important because it reflects real life situations that children actually face. It helps readers understand themselves and others, feel less alone in difficult situations, develop empathy for readers with different experiences. And these stories also help provide hope that is realistic, not overly with perfect endings, strategies for dealing with challenges and fears. The genre addresses everyday life, such as family, school, friendships, as well as serious issues like bullying, illness, discrimination, immigration, etc. Relationships are central from support from family, peers, or other mentors. and emotional growth through connections. And a lot of the books that we have read, and that I'm sure you have read on your own as well, we have seen so many connections through familial or through friends, through other just different connections um, in this genre. But realistic fiction is also one of the most popular genres among children. It is valuable for building social emotional understanding, and ultimately, it gives readers perspective rather than just protection, helping them navigate the real world. That is all that I have for you today. Again, thank you so much for your participation and bearing with the rest of my group. I really appreciate you guys. Bye.